walked past a building, all those kind of rundown places, maybe an old office or store, and thought, man, someone could do something really cool with that place.
It's like finding a diamond in the rough, hidden in plain sight.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Commercial REO properties. Are they hidden gems or hidden headaches?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And to help us figure that out, we're turning to a true Chicago real estate pro, Michael R. Linton.
He literally wrote the book on this, Chicago Commercial REO Properties, Acquisition and Disposition.
We'll be pulling insights from his book, plus taking a look at his website, chicagodealflow.com.
Decades of experience, all about Chicago real estate. He's the guy you want in your corner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up for a sec. When we say commercial REO property, what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about houses.
Right, we're thinking bigger than that. Think office buildings, retail spaces, even those massive warehouses you see off the highway.
So anything zoned for business, basically.
Pretty much. And the key here is that they've gone through foreclosure and are now owned by a bank or lender. They're the ones holding the keys, so to speak.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. The bank ends up owning these properties, not because they want to be landlords, but because
Because the previous owner, for whatever reason, couldn't keep up with their mortgage payments.
So it's not always about the property itself being a bad investment. Sometimes it's just bad luck, bad timing.
Exactly. It could be a business going under, a partnership going sour, even something unexpected like an illness or a natural disaster. Life happens.
Life happens, and the bank ends up with a property. So why does that matter to us as potential investors?
Because that's where the opportunity comes in. Imagine buying a property not just below market value, but potentially at a fraction of what it's worth.
That's the power of REOs.
Exactly. Banks aren't looking to become landlords. They want to get these properties off their books as quickly as possible.
Time is money, especially for a bank.
You got it. And that creates a window of opportunity for investors who are ready to move quickly and strategically.
This is starting to sound like we could score some serious deals.
It's all about knowing where to look and who to talk to.
Okay, so let's get practical. How do we find these REO properties? It's not like they're on Zillow with a big REO sign on them.
Well, not exactly, but it's not as mysterious as you might think. The good old MLS is one place to start, but you gotta know the right keywords and filters to use.
So it's like a secret code word?
Kinda, yeah. You're looking for listings that specifically mention REO or bank-owned, but there's another way to go straight to the source.
The banks themselves.
Bingo. You'd be surprised how many banks just list REO properties right on their websites.
No kidding. So you're saying I can just browse while I'm on hold with customer service?
Exactly. And don't forget about REO asset management companies. These guys specialize in handling REOs for banks. They can be a goldmine of leads.
It's like they have a treasure map with all the X's marked up.
That's a great way to put it. Now, let's say you found a property that seems promising.
Time to put on our best suit and walk into the bank, briefcase in hand.
Well, dressing sharp is never a bad idea, but the key here is preparation. Banks aren't looking to play games. They want to offload these properties quickly and move on.
Makes sense. Time is money, as they say.
Exactly. So be ready to show them you're serious. Come prepared with a solid understanding of the market. Be realistic about the property's condition, and don't be afraid to negotiate.
So it's like any negotiation. You got to know your stuff and be ready to make a deal.
Precisely. It's about finding that sweet spot where both sides feel good about the transaction.
Speaking of making a deal, what about those foreclosure auctions you see in movies? Are those a legit way to acquire an REO property?
They're definitely real, and they can be a great way to get a steal on a property. But, and this is crucial, you got to go in with a game plan.
No going in blind and hoping for the best.
Not if you want to come out ahead. First things first. Set a maximum bid before you even step foot in the auction.
So you don't get caught up in the moment and overbid.
Exactly. Those auctioneers are good at what they do. They know how to work a crowd, stick to your budget. Second, if at all possible, visit the property beforehand.
Get a feel for it. See what you're getting yourself into.
Exactly. Pictures can be deceiving, and you want to know what you're bidding on. And lastly, have a bidding strategy. Determine your increments, know when to hold them, and know when to fold them.
Sounds like it takes nerves of steel.
Let's just say it's not for the faint of heart.
All right, so let's say we've found our REO. We've navigated the bank's requirements, maybe even won a nail-biting auction. We're officially property owners. Time to celebrate, right?
Hold on to that champagne for just a bit. The real work is just beginning. Acquiring the property is just the first step.
There's more. I thought we were home free.
Not quite. This is where a lot of new REO investors get tripped up. Linton breaks down the post-acquisition challenges into three main categories in his book, and they're all important to keep in mind.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the first hurdle we need to be prepared for? We were just talking about the challenges that new REO investors often face. What's the first hurdle we need to be prepared for?
The minute you get the keys, you got to think about securing the property.
We're not just talking about changing the locks, are we?
Well, that's part of it, especially if the property's been sitting vacant for a while.
You don't want any unwelcome surprises.
Exactly. We're talking about preventing vandalism, theft, even squatters.
Right.
It all depends on the property and the neighborhood.
So how do we do that?
Linton's big on quick repairs. We're talking about fixing broken windows, reinforcing doors, maybe even installing a security system. It's about sending a message. This property is not an easy target.
I like it. So it's about being proactive, not waiting for something bad to happen, then scrambling.
Exactly. He also talks about getting to know the neighbors, maybe even reaching out to the local police department. A little community engagement goes a long way.
Okay, that's securing the property. What about the legal side of things?
Ah, yes, the legalities. Zoning is a big one. Just because a building exists doesn't mean it automatically checks all the boxes with current zoning regulations.
Right. So you can't just buy an old factory and turn it into a nightclub overnight.
Not without jumping through some serious hoops. You might want to revamp the space, change its use completely. That's where things can get tricky. Honestly, talking to a lawyer specializing in Chicago real estate law is crucial. Do that before you start drawing up renovation plans.
So know the rules of the game before you make a move. What if the property isn't empty? What about existing tenants?
That's a whole other ballgame. You got to review those leases carefully. Linton has some stories in his book, cautionary tales really, about investors who got burned because they didn't fully understand the terms of those existing agreements.
Definitely a case of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Right, so we've secured the property, navigated the legal maze. What's the third challenge we need to be ready for?
The big one, maintenance and rehabilitation. Let's face it, most REO properties need some work.
They're not exactly move-in ready.
Not usually. The biggest mistake is underestimating the costs or diving into renovations without a plan. You got to know what you're dealing with.
So no impulse buying that fancy espresso machine for the break room just yet?
Maybe later, after you've tackled the essentials, Linton stresses the importance of professional assessments. Get those done before you even think about a budget. You need to know if you're dealing with a leaky faucet or a leaky roof.
Makes sense. Big difference in costs there. So once you've got a handle on the work needed, what then?
Prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. Safety first, always. Anything structural, electrical, plumbing, those are your top priorities. Then you can move on to those cosmetic upgrades that'll make the property shine for potential tenants.
So you're saying I shouldn't be picking out paint colors on day one?
Or maybe hold off on that for a bit.
Yeah.
And speaking of renovations, choosing the right contractors is huge. This is not the time to hire your cousin Vinny, who knows a thing or two about plumbing.
Right. You want someone who's dealt with commercial properties before, not just residential.
Exactly. Get references, check their experience, and don't just disappear once the work starts. Stay involved, visit the site, ask questions, active oversight, not just hope and a prayer.
All great advice. So we've covered a ton of ground here, finding REOs, navigating the banks, and tackling those post-acquisition challenges. But how do we actually turn a profit?
Yeah.
What are the long-term investment strategies for REOs?
This is where understanding the market and playing the long game pays off. One classic approach is the buy and hold strategy.
Buy and hold sounds simple enough.
It can be. You buy the property, maybe do some renovations to increase its value, then find good tenants and enjoy the steady rental income. Plus, you're covered if the property value goes up over time.
Okay, so passive income and potential appreciation. What are the options are out there?
Another popular strategy is renovation for resale. You find a property that needs some love, put in the work to increase its value. Linton's book actually has some amazing case studies on this, then sell it for a profit.
So kind of like flipping a house, but on a larger scale.
Exactly. It's more hands-on, requires more upfront capital, but the potential returns can be significant. And of course, diversification is key.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. REOs can be part of a balanced investment portfolio. It's about spreading your risk and maximizing your returns.
This has been incredibly insightful, but we've talked broadly about REOs. What's unique about the Chicago market right now that makes this relevant to our listener?
Chicago's market is always shifting and changing, which is where Michael Linton's local expertise really shines. Interest rates, local developments, even which neighborhoods are considered up and coming, these factors all influence the REO market. What's a steal in one neighborhood might be a risky bet in another.
So location, location, location. It's not just a catchy phrase.
It's the truth. Knowing the lay of the land is just as important as understanding REOs themselves. For example, Linton highlights areas like Pilsen and Humboldt Park in his book. They're seeing a lot of REO activity right now. And with the city pushing for revitalization in these areas, it creates a unique window of opportunity.
Timing is everything.
Absolutely. That's why research is crucial. You have to understand the different neighborhoods, their growth potential, and how they align with your investment goals.
This deep dive into Chicago commercial REO properties has been eye-opening. It's clear that these often overlooked properties can be lucrative, but it's not a passive investment.
It takes diligence, market knowledge, and a solid strategy to succeed in the REO world.
It's not about getting rich quick. It's about making smart, informed decisions. We've learned a ton today, but what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Don't let the term distressed properties scare you off. With the right approach, these properties can be anything but distressing. They can be the foundation for building wealth and achieving your investment goals. Just do your homework, connect with the right experts, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
Fantastic advice. Michael R. Linden's book, Chicago Commercial REO Properties, Acquisition and Disposition, and his website, chicagodealflow.com, are incredible resources. Definitely worth checking out if you're ready to dive into this exciting market. Until next time, happy investing.